Hello, hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome to our virtual story time with Miss Brittany Robinson. I'm so excited as you are coming in. Make sure you share. If you are tuning in later, still full of comment in the chat because we'll be able to see both of us will be able to see it. And I want to first just introduce what we're doing this evening. So today is actually the kickoff to our virtual storytime series where we will be interviewing a series of different authors, learning their background, hearing their stories, what inspired them to write their stories, and most importantly, being able to answer questions that you may have in regards to how they got to this point. And then my total pleasure is hearing them actually read their story because there's nothing like seeing and hearing the story from the author themselves. So as you come in, say hello, put it in the chat. And as always, we're going to start with just introducing who I am in the organization. So I'm Jarima Gorham with Burst Into Books. This is our way of just spreading the word about amazing books that you should be adding to your home library, also inspiring you to write your story as well. And so to get started, we're going to jump in with Brittany. Hey, Brittany.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. And we just want to start with your background. So if you can kind of share just a little bit about yourself so that everyone who's watching can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. I am Brittany Mone't. I'm a native of Jackson, Mississippi. I am currently living in Texas, where I am an educator and a children's book author. I've been working with special education for 7 years now, and this is my first year teaching kindergarten.
So when we think about, so just hearing your background, so
Mhm.
even with being an educator, living now in Texas, what
Mhm.
led you to be like, okay, now I'm going to embark on this journey of being an author?
So originally, that was not idea. Working in special education, it opens up a different aspect in your mindset, working with children with disabilities and in inclusion. And so, because they needed more representation, I wanted to find a way to do that. At first, my first thought was a support group for parents because I did, encounter parents that needed more support or more just assistance with their child with special needs. And I was like, okay, it wasn't the time at that particular time for me to do it. And so I sat on it for a few more years after that, and COVID hit.
Mm,
And so my position at that time, I was working with nonverbal autistic and development delayed students. And it was hard working with them because we were virtual and had to work on laptops. And that was a tight struggle. And I said, okay, I need to find something that's going to, bring more representation for them.
mm,
And so I said, I'm going to write books,
mm,
and never written a book like ever. However, I did take the time to read different children's books just to get the tone of books to
mm.
see how I wanted my books to sound. And so I had already had my Special Heroes logo for like 2 years prior to me coming up with the name and writing my books.
So what led you to get the logo? Was that going to be for like the parent support group?
It was going to be for the parent support group, and I wasn't in the right space mentally to say, okay, I can give it 100%. And so I sat on it for a few years, and I was like, there's a different avenue that I can go to bring more representation and do, continue to be their voice. And so writing my books was that for me.
I love it. I love it. And we're seeing people coming in. Welcome, welcome. Say hello in the chat. We are just starting our conversation with Brittany, just learning her background. And now we're going to go into talking about the book. So I know you said Special Heroes was going to be the parent group.
Mhm.
But let's talk about how did you decide to make that the book title and then like even deciding what the cover of your book would look like.
So the title came because I work with special education, special, and then my students were heroes for me. And so I just kind of combined the two, but my spelling is different. And I wanted to do something that brought more representation to who they were. So I left out a letter because every child that has a disability has a missing link. And so that was my missing link. And so I kept the name as representation, and I wanted to do it in a special way. And that's how I came up with my title and the cover of my book.
Got you. So I love how you keep speaking about like this representation. And as I'm like working with different families, I've come across families who really are just trying to like find that community, right? Or trying to
Mhm.
find how can they really be best supports for their children. And then you have families who may or may not have a child who has like is a diverse learner, right? But they want to be able to understand how they could best support families. So what would you say just in your career would be like advice for maybe those families who are on their journey and trying to figure out
Mhm.
how to build community? And then what could be advice to additional parents who are like, hey, I want to be a support, whether or not
Mhm.
my child also is a diverse learner?
So, for me, again, working in special education, I was able to just open the door safety for my parents. Helping them in the best way that I could as an educator. Just in different areas and communities, there are a lot of support and resources. It's a matter of just kind of talking and asking for that, support and that help. And even asking the educators or wherever your child, may go, doctor's office, school. It's a lot. It's so many resources out there. Is the parent support challenging? Yes, it is.
Mm,
However, I did find out just being on Facebook that they have a lot of support parent groups
mm,
within, the social media aspect of it. So social media can definitely be a big venture for those parents who are looking for support. Because I do follow quite a few groups, and I just like to see, their ideas and just different things of growth and things that they're using to help their child grow um, in that community.
I love it. So if you didn't know that, parents look for different Facebook groups, ask your educator, right? Because they may can have resources or best practices for
Hmm.
you. And then, as she said, I mean, just really being able to use the people that's in your village
Right.
help you to better understand. So at this time, which I'm excited, we are actually going to hear a live reading from Brittany, and then we'll come back. As you're listening, please put in the comments your reaction to the story. If you have any further questions you would want me to pose. But again, at this time, we're going to move on to our live reading. You got the floor, Brittany.
Okay. So I'm going to read my second book that I published, Special Heroes Making Friends. It is about a little girl who has spina bifida. Making friends. I am nervous watching the clock. It is almost recess time as it is past 10 o'clock. We go outside for recess. I am anxious as to what it will be because I cannot move freely. We put our classwork away and line up as we are ready to play. We are outside and my classmates are running to play on the jungle gym, the seesaw, and the sandbox while I watch them scream and say, ah. I enjoy watching my classmates have fun. I wish I could run and make friends while I play, but I can't move freely as I may. I see a few of my classmates in a circle, talking and looking at me as they are walking. Alice, would you like to play? I look up surprised and smile. Yes, I would if that's okay. But I say, I cannot get on the jungle gym, the seesaw, or in the sandbox. They say that is okay. We have a basketball, a tennis racket, bubbles, and horseshoes to play. I was excited to play. I think I finally made friends during recess time today. Although I cannot run, jump, or climb, I made friends that made a way for me to play during this time. My name is Alice. I am a little girl in a wheelchair with spina bifida. Do not count me out. I'm still able to move about. I may be limited with certain things, but I believe I am capable. I am a capable human being. And that's the end.
Love it, love it. So,
Thank you.
question, what made you start with that being like what the first story was?
Actually, that was the second story. My first one is on autism.
Okay.
Because when I say representation, um, every disability that I represent is are from those students that I've worked with before. And I like to just bring their life to life, just their everyday ideas, just me seeing whether they're verbal or nonverbal, just seeing how they move about and how they navigate throughout a classroom and some of their challenges. And that was a challenge, as I've seen a lot of students with spina bifida in a wheelchair that struggle with certain things during recess time or during playtime, but they do make friends, and they do have friends that try to find a way where they can feel, um what's the word, where they can feel, um oh my god, I'm thinking about the word, but they try to incorporate that environment for them too. And so just watching that and their challenges, and to let them know that they're not alone, they're not the only ones, that do have that same disability, that struggle during certain times.
Love it. Robin is here. She gave you a heart. So thank you for your story. Um, Something I wanted to ask, because I'm not sure if you this was a part of like your research with writing stories. I know something for me that what matters to me having so many books of representation is that I think over the years, especially since when I was younger, there are definitely
Hmm.
more books that show black boys and black girls
Right.
and these different stories, but it's still such a small percentage in the
Yep.
children's literature world. And I could just imagine it's probably even smaller when it's about topics that deal with the diverse learners and
Right.
disabilities, right? So
Hmm.
what have maybe the response of your families and your students been of like knowing that now you are really advocating and writing these stories for their kids? Because I think it's important for kids to not only see themselves in just their like skin tone, but even all aspects of
Right.
themselves. Yep.
Right, because I do work with a big diverse community in the education system and in special education. For the parents, that like really made their day, just to see somebody become their voice for their children, even if parents don't have a voice, and not all of them do have a voice. Some may not understand their child's disability to a certain extent, and just incorporating parents in a lot of things. And even before I wrote my books, I did reach out, to a few parents, just with the child, specifically with the child that has that, disability that I'm speaking on, just to get, more insight on things that I may not know, outside of just working with them 8 hours a day. Um, what their characteristics are, what are some challenges for them, just to get, a broad, um more information in regards to it, so I can better tell their story and bring more representation.
I love it. So in this series, I know you say you have a book on autism, you have
Mhm.
this book. What is next? Are you foreseeing like a full series? What are you?
So currently, I have, again, my first book was on autism. My second book is spina bifida. So my coloring book has 10 different disabilities that I bring representation to, and I do plan to use those same characters to create a mini series
Mm,
on the continuing books. But I also do have a project that I'm working on currently. I don't want to spill the
you ain't
beans.
gotta spill
However,
the beans.
I am turning one of my books into an animation cartoon.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's what I'm working on right now. That's what I'm working on right now. So I'm excited about it, but I'm also looking forward to creating my mini series with my books.
I love it. So how can people stay connected? How can they get the, copies of the books?
Okay. Well, they can visit my website at www.myspecialheroes. Make sure you leave out the last E. myspecialheroes.com. I am also on Instagram, myspecialheroes underscore, which you will see a lot of my teachings as well in my classroom. and me promoting my books and the different projects and books that I will be launching.
Yes, so I just typed it in the chat, you all. So visit My Special Heroes, being able to learn more about all of her books, about her workbooks, and even the special project that we'll hear later
Yes.
on in coming up. So as you embarked, as you share, a lot of times this is not only for parents to learn
Hmm.
about books for their libraries, but for those who may have a story with inside of them. What would be some advice you would have for someone who's like, I've never written a book either? Like, what was some of the tips or trades you could share with them to maybe consider?
So I've reached out my first time even having a thought. I did reach out to a good friend and colleague of mine because she has written books before. And so I just, reached out, asked her those necessary questions, and I was like, okay. Even though she wrote books on on an adult level, I
Mhm.
still, took her advice and said, okay, in order for me to decide which way I want to go or how I want my books to sound, I took the time to reach out to her and ask her those necessary questions.
Brittany, your sound went out. No, so maybe what you could do is like go out and come back in, and maybe that'll help. Cool, cool. So as Brittany is coming back in, I want you all to, as we put in the chat, visit myspecialheroes.com. There you will be able to not only get access to her books, you can also get access to her workbooks. And then again, just being able to stay in touch with everything she's doing. She's back.
I am. I have no idea what happened.
But no, consider you said you reached out to a friend who also had like published a book
Wrote
before.
right. She
Mhm.
didn't write children's books, but however, she did publish books. So she definitely gave me insight and supported me, and as well as helped me just to get the kickstart of how to navigate through my books, as well as me using social media to see different authors and things that they have done, just to just really get that kickstart. And I had no idea that writing books would be just ideal for me,
Mhm.
but I enjoy it and I like it. And I like bringing things to life and being more representation for undeserving community.
Yeah, and then illustrations. Who did the illustrations?
Oh man, it took me. I probably went through quite a few people to
Really?
find illustrations, but I did find somebody that met my expectations on bringing my vision to life and what I wanted my characters to look like. And I was very adamant on making my characters diverse.
Hmm. Hmm. Love it. So I think that that's sometimes the hardest piece. Even when I talk to authors, like, cause you can write the words, but in your head, you see
Hmm.
this story, and it's like, nah, that picture doesn't look like my main.
Yes.
That's not
And it
how.
was like, can you make this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I didn't ask her to put the cape on it, but when I saw the cape on it, I was like, yes, that's exactly what it. But it was the representation that I needed and that I wanted my books to look for. Not that I had the idea of my characters having capes on, but I love it. I absolutely love it. So she exceeded my expectations, and she is my illustrator for everything that I do.
Awesome, awesome. So you all, if you know someone in your circle who has published a book, go to them. Don't reinvent wheels, right? Learn what are the best practices that they do, and then also you definitely want an illustrator that is going to bring your story to life.
Life.
One of my closing questions I love to do for each of these different interviews, depending on what time of the year it is. So it is currently Women's History Month. And so I would love to know for you, Brittany, who
Hmm.
is a woman who has impacted your life?
Oh man, I actually have quite a few people.
It could be more than
Um,
one. It could be more than one.
I will say, there are quite a few women that have impact just my life in general. Um, my great grandmother, Dorothy Irvin,
Mm,
as well as my mom, Deborah Amos. But I have some amazing women in my space. My best friends, they are a huge impact and a big encouragement in my life as they continue to be. And I absolutely love the reassurance. I love the encouragement and just them being who they are. And so that's all I need.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all I need. Just the women that are in my space and that I share space with, as well as my mom and a lot of women in my family as well.
I love it. I love it. So, any closing thoughts in regards to, I mean, as people are looking on your website, learning more about your work, what is like the main message that you will want people to get from reading your stories and also being able to stay connected to you?
Okay. So my first, I will say my books are not just for the special needs community.
Hmm.
My books are for everybody. And I say that because you're going to encounter somebody that may have autism, that may have spinal bifida, that may have ADHD, a developmental delay, visually impaired. It's not just for, it's for you to learn who they are.
Yep.
You know, they deserve kindness too. They are very much so capable for achieving anything in life. Maybe not on our time, but on their time, but they are capable. They are loving. They do have challenges as well as any human being has challenges, but my books are not just specifically for the special needs community. I want it to be where everybody can learn who they are and become a voice or join me in becoming their voice. Um, and that actually will be my main take. I want it to be for everybody. I want everybody to learn who they are. I want them to love them for who they are, and show kindness in the most amazing ways as you would, anybody else.
I appreciate that. And I really do appreciate you writing these books. I'm also an educator at heart. And I think that it's so important that I just know that it just matters for kids to understand that they have a place and their voice and their stories matter. And
Mhm,
I think a lot of times the same way we look at maybe other individuals of like different religions or different
mhm.
races, and it's like, okay, I don't want you to assume my story, assume what I'm feeling. Um,
Right,
Understand that we all have our what makes us unique, right, and what makes us different. But
mhm,
also, there's so much that we have in common. So I even look
right,
at your stories. They're like, look, come over here. You can play this with us. You can do this with us.
right.
Like, play doesn't
Mhm,
end just because of any kind of, disability. So I just want to say
right.
thank you. I know many educators, families will be blessed by this story. I am excited because we will be bringing Brittany back next month
Yes, we will.
with her
Next month
next book.
is
Next book. So um,
yes, April is my favorite month because it is autism month and I celebrate the whole month, everything, and I love it. I absolutely love autism month, but I celebrate it without it being April. So I am definitely big on representation and they deserve it. They love to see themselves, whether they're verbal, nonverbal, whether they can understand it, but just seeing who they are. And for the parents, I will continue to be their voice. I will continue to do everything I need to bring more representation to the community that is well deserving and that lack the representation.
yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I know that they
You
do as
are welcome.
well. And I look forward to our talk next time. So, those, thank you if you are watching currently or you're watching later. Please go and visit my it's my special
That's myspecialheroes.com.
heroes.com with the E off the heroes. And then make sure that you can stay connected. And again, we will see you next time. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.